You know, I come from an agency background, so I'm very much of the mindset that when you have the opportunity, get that coverage. So starting at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1:30, you're getting calls, and it just increases exponentially to the point where the phone is ringing as soon as you hang it up, and you've got 2 phones. So it was sort of, you prioritize what you're getting. Like if the Gander hockey blog emails us, they're probably not going to get a response.
Right.
But CBC, you understand where your best outlets are. But in those first 12 hours, our priority was exclusively local media. We made a, expressed point that it's local first because those are the people that will get our residents out. We were very lucky in that we had Darby, who is a very compassionate and engaging speaker. Dale is also a very confident speaker. He has a lot of authority, coming from a military background. It's all facts, very confident delivery. So we had 2 people we could switch out with, but there were a number of occasions when Darby is in the field, Dale is doing something, and one of us would have to take these interviews. So one of the things that I think is valuable, the reasons I really like being a communicator is you're always in the middle. You always know the information, so we were very aware of the key messages. We were a good enough substitute when they weren't there. I think one of the key learnings for us is that, especially coming into the morning of the next day, you get that East Coast news cycle starts to build up, and the volume of requests, at a certain point we just had to say no. At about 10:30 in the morning, 11 o'clock is when the fire behavior really starts to get crazy. The humidity reaches peak levels for fire growth, the wind picks up, and the sun is about as high as it's going to get. So you can't take those people away anymore. And we did start saying no, and saying, you know what, you're going to have to wait until 10 o'clock tonight when we can actually sit down, put people in a room, and collect ourselves. So on May 4th, we did do our first phone conference, press conference.
With Mayor Blake, was it?
Mayor Blake called in, and we had Dale and Darby and our provincial forestry manager. So, the appetite for that information, I think, was, at that point, May 4th, it was pretty evident what was going on. I don't think that media had the context to understand what percentage of the damage there was, and we didn't know either.
Yeah. It was still burning.
It was. That's the thing. It's like there were still houses burning down. There were houses burning down for 4 days. So it was, the volume was challenging. And you have interactions with journalists who were god awful. They had no real compassion other than the fact that it was a hot story, and they wanted more. And those are the interactions that really put you off. But I also had, I now have friendships with reporters just from that first 12 hours. You get 7 or 8 calls from one reporter updating his story every 2 hours. You start to have conversations with them that aren't just about the fire. It was a big learning for us, and moving into reentry was a completely different. It gave us the experience to look at reentry and understand what sort of a media package we could provide and structure it in a way that was on our terms versus being on their terms, because
based on the first 48 hours or so.
We had information that they wanted, and it was coming at us from all sides. June 1st was our reentry date when people were allowed to come back in, and that meant that media were able to have some level of access that wasn't on a guided tour. So we created a structure where we had the premier, we had the mayor, we had all the experts, and then we corralled your secondaries, so someone who can speak to water testing and water safety, pet evacuation, social services. And we said, you've got 2 hours, be in this room, you talk to them now, you'll get our media package, you'll get all of our clippings, and that's it. And it was, we did as many interviews in that 2 hours. We filled about 100 requests in 2 or 3 hours, and in such a more structured and calm flow than when your phone is just ringing off the hook and you're running around trying to answer every call. That was a big learning for us, is that once you're confident that you're the expert, you're the information leader, you do it your way.
No, go ahead.
One little thing. So the other thing too is when we initially drove back into town, we didn't do any media interviews, and that sort of also led to the creation of the Derby videos, because we knew we had to give the media something. We needed to get a face out and needed to create some kind of graphic imagery for this fire, so they knew there was something going on and that it was a relatable experience. So we started shooting the little Derby videos, and if you're not familiar with them, we just shot like a little 30-second clip on an iPhone and then posted it to our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels. And those ended up really resonating with our audiences. They got amazing pickup. They were picked up by media as well. And we saw that instantaneously these things were getting carried across the country.
When did you start those? What day?
It was May, I want to say May 5th.
May 5th.
It was the
Okay,
day we went back. No, sorry. Yeah, I think it was May 5th when we went back into town. And so that was, and then we started doing one every day just on the basis that it works so well. And so we didn't do any actual traditional media interviews again until we actually did our first media tour with the Premier after that. So that was the first big one we came back in, only because we didn't have the capacity on the ground to manage the inquiries at that point in time.
Cool. Diane, coming over to you, because it was May 15th, so I guess we got the call from Bob Couture, who is head of emergency management, I guess on the 12th, would have been, give or take. Asking if we could deploy some people up there to support with the communications team, which we definitely worked hard to do. But in that time, in that interim between that call and you getting deployed, we tried to get a sense of what was going on at the ground, more in terms of what was happening with the province, with POC, with the Premier's office, with all of it, because there was a lot of moving parts and everybody was sort of moving very quickly for obvious reasons. Give us a sense of your assessment pre-arriving, and then your assessment really in terms of the overall communications mechanism, the team, and the whole structure. Your perspective prior to arriving, and then what you saw on the ground when you arrived.
For sure. So we arrived, actually my colleague Dana arrived a few days before I did. So just to sort of give you a little bit of the picture of what we were coming to. I had to fly into Edmonton and then drive up to Fort McMurray. So if anybody's driven up to Fort McMurray from Edmonton, it's about a 5-hour drive. And, it was a beautiful sunny day on a Sunday afternoon driving up. And we knew what was going on. Certainly we had been in close contact with Robin and Jordan, but I had no idea what I was going into and how volatile, I guess, the situation still was. So it was a beautiful sunny day. All of a sudden, I got to the security checkpoint because we had to have a bracelet to actually come into the municipality. Nobody else was allowed in unless you had a bracelet. So I got my bracelet, drove in, and literally there were fires on the side of the road. I mean, nothing to the scale that Jordan and Robin are speaking of, but certainly there were still fires. And as I drove into downtown Fort McMurray, it literally felt like Mars. The atmosphere was red because it was a bright sunny day. There was not a cloud in the sky, but we had that smoke cover. And I always remember because my colleague Dana, who was there, had texted me a picture of her wearing a mask. A respirator, actually, not a mask. And I thought that, it was just a precautionary measure, but no, it really was, the situation that we were coming in, the air quality was not great. Every single day when, I think in the first week while I was there, I was packing my bag and bringing it to work with me every day because we didn't know if we were gonna have to evacuate. It was that kind of situation. And just to give you a sense, air quality is usually measured on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. One day we got up to 54. And so, I mean, it got up to 38 one day, and then we didn't think it would get any higher than that, and then it got up to 54. So, we were working under these conditions. Everybody left town. They left their garbage out. There were bears coming into town to eat the garbage. I remember one day we came out and they said, just don't go outside, there are bears, So you name it, it was actually happening when we were there. And I mean, it's crazy. Imagine if right now we had to evacuate Toronto and we'd be gone for a month. That's what it was like. There was nobody in the city. And so we were coming in. You two weren't there when I actually got there. It was Amy and Russell who was there from the RMWB. But I remember we were just trying to figure out things with Steve from the province.
They needed a break after all, for God's sake.
Yes, they absolutely needed a break. And that's actually really important. I mean, you just want to go. There's so much adrenaline and you just want to keep going. And we were actually, Sarah and I were chatting about this earlier, that you feel like to leave it and you need to have this break, you feel so guilty. It's like, I can't leave this situation. I was watching a documentary after I got back on the military, and one guy was describing it saying that you hate being there, but you hate not being there. And unless you've actually been in that kind of situation, you don't understand. But it was different, right? You know, Jordan and Robin are residents of the area too. So they were also dealing with issues about, you know, reentry, like all these things were affecting them as well. So it was kind of good that we had a bunch of folks coming in that were sort of removed from that situation. But for us, it was really about creating processes. I mean, they were absolutely had great ideas and making sure that, you know, communications move forward. But then once we scaled up, we really had to get these processes in place. And especially leading up to the reentry. There's a great picture of all of us the day before reentry. You know, we were there, I think, till 11 o'clock at night, just trying to figure things out and making sure we had somebody at every single information center, because we knew media would probably want to get in. They couldn't actually get into the information centers for confidentiality reasons. So it was really about making sure that we thought about these things. And one thing that I always really valued with Robin and Jordan was they always played really good devil's advocate with stuff. And, you know, sometimes we think something was a really great idea, and it wasn't, right? Just from the experience that they actually had gone through. And so making sure we tried to test everything. I mean,